Go. The American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. This is the mission statement of the American Red Cross. Who can forget the devastation caused by the tornadoes in Oklahoma City just a while back? In Oklahoma City, a tornado was reported to be 2.6 miles wide, traveling at speeds of 300 miles per hour. In the nearby city of El Reno, an EF5 level twister was reported to be seen. This was the second tornado in less than 2 weeks. Of course, with such devastating storms, a devastating aftermath is also present. The death toll is as follows. 24 people were killed in Oklahoma City in a suburb known as Moore. Motorists were killed when a tornado hit Interstate 40. 19 people were killed in the El Reno storm. In addition to death, large amounts of damage was also sustained. In El Reno, there was a significant amount of damage. It also decimated neighborhoods in the suburb of Moore. And I have a few visuals just to give you a better idea of just the absolute destruction that happened because of these tornadoes. You can see that the tornadoes just ravaged homes, leaving families homeless, and that the damage was really just horrible. Fortunately, the American Red Cross was there to help. They were on the scene on Friday, May 31st. 1,100 Red Cross workers were at the scene. Later, they were forced to take shelter because of more storms that hit. They supplied food, shelter, and supplies. In addition to working physically on the scene, they also acquired donations to just further their power in assisting and helping. As of June 17th, $26.5 million was raised. They used this money to provide food, relief items such as sunscreen, ice chests, buckets, gloves, dust masks, flashlights, tarps and shovels and rakes, anything to help just rebuild and do whatever they could to help. Health services as well as mental health contacts, and they also provided shelter. And that's just a small example of how the Red Cross helps in the face of disaster. Now Cole is going to give us a little more information on the history and background of this great organization.
So what exactly does the American Red Cross stand for? To figure this out, we're going to look at its values and fundamental principles. You can see the Red Cross's values outlined in their mission statement and vision statement. Austin already showed the mission statement, which is listed right here. What this basically shows is what the Red Cross is committed to, and that is to alleviating human suffering. Now, to alleviate human suffering, you're going to want to have some sort of plan or outline, and that's in the vision statement. To do this, they look at disaster preparation and relief, donating blood, supporting our armed services and families, and having someone at the scene ready to help anyone in an emergency situation whatsoever. Now we'll look at the fundamental principles, and there are 7 of them outlined on the Red Cross website. So the first one is humanity, which is basically alleviating human suffering and promoting peace. Next we have impartiality, which says that there's zero discrimination in the Red Cross and it prioritizes cases based on urgency. Next we have neutrality. So in any war situation or conflict, then we have independence. And although the Red Cross does take government funding, it must maintain autonomy. The Red Cross is a strictly voluntary service, and they have no desire for gain. The 6th principle is unity. So that says that there's one Red Cross per country, and each Red Cross must carry out its own work in its own country. And finally, the 7th principle is universality, which is saying that it's a worldwide institution, and it'll have equal status and responsibilities in each of its respective countries. So now that you're more familiar with who the Red Cross is, let's examine its history. The Red Cross was founded by a woman named Clara Barr, which is shown right here. Before founding the Red Cross, she actually aided Civil War soldiers and provided supplies to them even before medical aids could arrive onto the scene. She practically embodied what the Red Cross means. After the war, she traveled to Europe and was introduced to the global Red Cross and discovered the Red Cross located in Geneva. There she got to know what the Red Cross is all about and wanted to bring that back to the States. So she really pressed the president to sign the form the global Red Cross. That president refused to sign it due to worrying about some sort of treaty or alliances. But eventually Clara got his successor to sign. So after that, it was officially formed on May 21st, 1881. Clara led the Red Cross for 23 years. At that time, she conducted the first overseas disaster relief, aided the U.S. during the Spanish-American War, and got what was signed to be the American Amendment to the Geneva Treaty, which is shifting towards a focus towards disaster relief. Now, let's look at Red Cross's activity during the war. In the First World War, we saw phenomenal growth. The public actually contributed $400 million to support the Red Cross's cause, and they recruited 20,000 registered nurses to serve the military. In the Second World War, they enrolled approximately 100,000 nurses for service. Also during this time, it's notable to show that they actually initiated the National Blood Program, which got about 13 million pints of blood for soldiers. Now, this prompted the nationwide civilian blood program after the war was over. But before we discuss the many successful stories of the American Red Cross, we need to look at successful stories of the American Red Cross. Legitimate one and be trusted.
Though it can be really difficult to discern whether an organization is truly committed to its mission or just another big company that strives for personal gain, we can look at some observations that will lead us to make a decision whether the Red Cross is legitimate or just a scam. The first place we can look is behind the scenes. At the core of the American Red Cross stands the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics gives boundaries for the employees and the volunteers, like how they should conduct themselves while working for the American Red Cross. This is to ensure that the American Red Cross stays focused on its mission statement. At the beginning of the Code of Ethics, it reads, "The Red Cross has traditionally demanded and received the highest ethical performance from its employees and its volunteers." This code includes rules for everything, including finances, what happens if there's a conflict in interest, and prevents personal gain. Another thing that stands is the Governance Board. The Governance Board is a group of members that help run the organization so that no one person completely rules the organization. Before you can be on this board, members must be elected. And once they're on the board, they have to be kept accountable for their actions by the other members and the code. All behind the scenes information seems to prove that the American Red Cross is legitimate, but we need to also take into consideration what we can observe. You and I see the Red Cross at work every day. We see them on campus. When they're doing the blood drives, we see them in hospitals, we see them in crisis scenes, we even see them in classrooms as they work to educate the public on how to do life-saving techniques. Another way we can observe the legitimacy of the American Red Cross is by listening to what others have to say. I think the most powerful argument for the American Red Cross being legitimate is when we listen to people who have been personally touched by the American Red Cross. I was on the website and I was watching some of the testimonials of people who have been victims of terrible tragedies, and they were sharing how the Red Cross helped them. When I was watching it, almost every person said, "Without the Red Cross," and then they would fill in the blank with their story. "Without the Red Cross, my family would not have been reunited. Without the Red Cross, my child would have died due to a lack of blood." And so they're witnesses to miracles that the American Red Cross helped perform. Another place that we can look at is the website Charity Navigators. This website's sole purpose is to inform the public on which charities they should donate to. Out of 70 points, Charity Navigators gave the American Red Cross 70 points for transparency, because they said they had truthful material on the websites and they were very, very open. In saying that, now we can look at one of these charts that say all the money that comes in for a year. So the red is what the Red Cross spends on administration. The green is what they spend in fundraising, and then the blue is what they spend to help fund their programs. So whether that's the blood drive or relief programs, it goes mostly towards their program. Now that we have discussed the reasons why the Red Cross is legitimate, we can listen to Adrienne as she shares the successful stories and statistics of this amazing organization.
Throughout the many years, the American Red Cross has helped and saved many lives in towns of others. Each year, their community brings together 2,610 people to care for their neighbors. They train 45,000 people in life-saving skills and response to disasters once every other day. In case of a small fire, gas leak, or a flood, the American Red Cross is right there in the community to help, and people can always count on them. More than 155 million people were helped in 2012 through disaster relief response, cost effect, and community-based programs. In 70 countries, American Red Cross provided international assistance. More than 1.1 billion children have been vaccinated against measles and rubella. For more than 100 years, the American Red Cross has worked with the world's of the most vulnerable communities. There are 6 different services the American Red Cross has: disaster relief, the Blood Donation Center, Youth Council Services, the Armed Forces, and the Health and Safety. The most 2 popular are disaster relief and the blood donation. Each year, there are 300 disasters. The American Red Cross is helping families whenever and wherever they need it. This year, the American Red Cross has responded to 85 local disasters and helped 1,350 individuals and their families when needed it. Through blood donation, anybody can donate blood the first and third Wednesday of every month. This year, the Jersey Coast chapter collected 8,019 units of blood through 206 blood drives. Today, each year, the American Red Cross collects 6.5 million units of blood from approximately 4 million donors. Even after 100 days from the Superstorm Sandy in New Jersey, the American Red Cross still continues to provide hope, help, and comfort to the people affected by it. They distributed over 1.5 million relief items, provided more than 28,300 health and mental health contacts, mobilized more than 5,300 employees and volunteers, and served more than 4 million meals and snacks. Through this visual aid, it shows the disaster response statistics all across the United States and how the American Red Cross has helped everybody throughout the United States. Each picture shows the summer wildfires, the spring storms, and everything else throughout the disasters that have happened. Some of the stories that the American Red Cross can contribute to is when on May 20th, Gina Jansen, a second grade teacher at Briarwood Elementary School in Moore, Oklahoma, was told that there was going to be a tornado by school administrators. She immediately had her students go through the tornado precautions and moved everyone to the center of the classroom. Even after the tornado hit, the community and all the individuals were devastated. Luckily, the American Red Cross was there to help. They provided multiple services, including the blood drive and the disaster relief shelters. When talking about her experience through American Red Cross, she stated, "It was very organized. We went from station to station with each person, getting all the assistance and the financial help that you can get with housing needs and financial needs. It was definitely a blessing." The American Red Cross is working diligently and with its partners to make the recovery process as easy as efficient as possible. In addition, the American Red Cross continues to provide shelters, food and distributes relief supplies, emotional support, and health services to the people of Oklahoma. The American Red Cross shelters, feeds, and provides supports to the victim of disasters, supplies about 40% of the nation's blood, teaches skills that save lives, provide international humanitarian a non-profit organization that depends on volunteers and the generosity of the American public to perform its mission. There are so many reasons why the American Red Cross is such a fantastic charity to know about. Austin will help us learn more and will speak about why the American Red Cross has such a wonderful charity and why it should be chosen.
Well, as Adrian said, the Red Cross is a nonprofit, non-government organization. On their website, they call themselves an independent entity. They maintain a charter with the United States Congress. However, they do not receive any regular funding from the government. And so they rely on contributions from the public and from people like you. And that is why it is so important that you support the Red Cross so that they can keep doing what they do. Now I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what the Red Cross does and all the reasons why they are a wonderful organization to support. Like we talked about, they food, physical, and mental health services in the midst of disaster. They also support military families in mental coping and preparation, in emergency contact, and also in emergency aid. And of course, one of the largest things they're known for is their many blood donations. They are the largest supplier of blood in the United States. They are also responsible for aiding and in performing health and safety training for many organizations and other people that wish to help others, such as CPR, first aid, and lifeguard training. And this is one of the most admirable things they do, as it helps other people to help other people. And they are also involved in international services such as disaster relief on a worldwide level. They also aid in creating safe communities and maintaining safe communities around the world. And they also train other humanitarian efforts around the world. And so, in the end, America would be drastically different without the never-ending, life-saving, and loving work of the American Red Cross. And now Carissa is going to wrap up our discussion today.
After discussing the long history, the legitimacy, the stories and statistics, and the unique factors that make the American Red Cross the American Red Cross, it proves itself to be a worthy recipient of any donations that are given. The American Red Cross is a beacon of hope in the darkest of tragedies by showering the victims with care and support. This is a true example of what it means to love others. Thank you for listening.